Hey guys, it's Ray from the Honeydew channel. Today we're going to be putting up some recessed lighting in our ceiling. So recently I've been doing a lot of projects around the house and I just finished the floor down here that you can see. So I put this floor in, took me about a day to do. Sorry, I didn't video it, but the next one I will video. I put in white molding at the bottom. All of the molding here will get changed over. We're going to do white panel doors. So this house needs a lot of updating and that's where we are at the moment. But for now, once again, I just want to do some lighting in the ceiling. So what we have here is an old incandescent light, and it really doesn't provide much light. Not that I can't put, other bulbs in it, but it still just doesn't produce much. So I'm going to put in recessed lighting. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using. These are the new style recessed lights. They take up very little space and are incredibly easy to put in. It's a two-piece unit. It has a little transformer box here that you wire in. You just have to cut a 6-inch hole in. And here I already have the wire, and I'm going to put another one in right up over there that will light up that area. So just a little quick background. These are a couple other things you can use. This is the old style, but the problem with it is when you have your joists, you're limited to where you can go based on where your joists are. Where these don't care. You can cut a hole just about anywhere and have them go up. So this is what's known as an old work box. This is a new work box, something that an electrician might put up during construction. But we're going to go ahead and once again use these. So the nice thing about these is their thickness is only about 1/2 inch. And so when you're dealing with a piece of strapping, they'll sit below the strapping, or they're actually less than the thickness of the sheetrock. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this light here. Alright, so the first thing I did is I went down to my basement, went to the breaker box and killed the breaker on this. So now there's no power up there. Alright, so that's the first thing that I would suggest for you to do. Then I'm just going to remove this piece here. This comes down. Take one of my screwdrivers. Take these bolts out. Now there's 2 holes up here that have screws in them, and you only usually need to just loosen the screws. You can take them out completely if you want, but you only usually just need to loosen them, and then you can give the unit a twist and it will come out. Want to see if that happens or not. Often you can just twist it, and it will. Already loose on this side, there you go. You can obviously take them out completely if you want. I'm going to take them out now. Just get them out of my way. And then there's another bracket that you need to take down. So I'm going to take this other bracket down. This does require you to remove the hole on both the screws. On the bracket there's also a ground wire. Just remove that ground wire off of it. There's 2 wing nuts. I'm going to go ahead and just remove one, put the cap back on, remove the other, and put the cap back on. Just so that they're just out of my way. So the next thing we're going to need to do is get rid of this box. This box is going to be in our way, right? And so in my house, this is my house that I'm working in, the joists are running in this direction. So that means the box is either nailed on this side or this side. Usually just a little push on either side will tell you. I can feel that it's hinging on this side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a big screwdriver. Just get it up there against the joist and just start working it out. They will eventually come out, so just they're usually nailed in. One nail's out, the other nail's just about out. Okay, that's out. Now, there's a bunch of wires up there that are here that are all joined together. So sometimes you're only going to get one wire in there that's going to have a black and a white. That's going to, just be your what they call the leg or the feet to the light. But here I have mini lights, more mini wires. This is a three-way switch. So what I'm going to do is when I'm ready to connect it, I'm going to connect a wire into this box, put a cover on the box and leave it there as long as it's accessible, which with the new light, it will be accessible. It's perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just tuck this up and stick this to the side. And while I'm there, I'm going to feel around just a little bit to find out if there are any other wires around here that I have to worry about. And I don't really feel any. Okay, so with the lights that I purchased, and I did purchase these actually on Amazon, though you can buy them in any Home Depot. I'm not sure about Lowe's because I don't really shop there all that often, but with Home Depot you can purchase them. But these, once again, I purchased them on Amazon. These are 100 watt lights. So they come with a template, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the template up to the center here, and I'm just going to draw a circle around it with a pencil. And that's where my light's going to go. You just need some really very basic tools to do this with. And one of them is a saw, just a plain saw here. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and go in. And my joist is right here, so when I get to here, I'm not going to be able to go very deep. But here, lots of dust is created here, so if you're allergic to dust with your mask on, I've been doing this for so long, dust doesn't really bother me. So, once again, this is where the joist is. Joist. And that's it. Now that's cut out, and you can actually see if I just take this unit here, this is where the joist is, right? The ceiling is strapped, so that means that I can run a snake in any direction here. So this will actually just fit up in this hole. That's what we're looking for. So next I'm going to cut my second one in, and then I'll show you how I snake it in. So I'm going to put one in this hallway here. This goes into the bathroom here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to center it on this closet right here. So this closet is
32 1/4. So I have actually already made my mark at 32 1/4 is actually right here. So that's 32 1/4. And then here is roughly 41 1/2. So that's 20 3/4. So I'm gonna come back out and go 20 3/4. It is right here. Let's recheck on this side. And 20 3/4. And so that's about my half point. So this template actually comes with a circle in the middle. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna poke my pencil through it. Put that to that, push it up. I'm gonna hit my lead all the way up one more time. And then there's the center mark, or the center for that unit. So now here I'm going to cut this hole out. Because I took the lighting out up there and I was able to knock the actual box out, I was able to feel around here. So usually what I do when I'm starting here is I'll just create a small hole. So that's a joist that I'm hitting right there. So I know I'm on a joist. I can hear the wood. So that's one of the joists is running that way. So I'm going to move over a little bit. And now I'm down on a joist. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a small hole within the area. And I can put my finger up through to feel. And so right here I can feel insulation. So in this ceiling, when we purchased this home, there's actually 2 layers of sheetrock. The layer that you're looking at is the actual ceiling. There's another layer that's behind it that's in strips, and that's actually radiant heat that they put in when they first built the house. We don't use the radiant heat here because there's been forced hot water put in, so that's what we use. So I've gone ahead throughout the whole house and I put lighting in through the whole house, and I've removed all the breakers from the ceiling heat. So I'm not worried about cutting a hole into it. So now that I've been able to feel around here, I'm going to make a slightly bigger hole. And the crunching you're hearing is, once again, that's that ceiling, the heating system that's above it. We'll never use it, so I'm not worried about it. I'm trying to make a big enough hole that I can kind of put my hand in. So that I know what I'm getting involved in. So as I'm cutting, I just want to know that I'm not cutting a wire. I've been doing it for quite a while, so I typically know when I'm cutting a wire because I can feel the drag on the saw. But as you're going, once again, you're hearing that noise. That's actually the wires, the filaments that are being cut inside. Likely you're not going to have that as an issue. You're just going to have a layer of sheetrock, so it'll be very easy for you to cut. So once again, I'm just feeling around. There's nothing that I'm feeling that I'm worried about, so I'm going to continue to cut. I can feel the strapping is right here. So there's a piece of strapping that runs along that they actually attach the sheetrock to. So I'm going to hit that. That's going to be a piece of wood that I'll need to cut out afterwards. And so you can see I just hit it there. That's it there. Remove that. Yes, I make a mess, but I do clean up after myself, so. I was actually planning on using this box to catch it all in, but that was a good plan that I didn't use. Come back. Once again, that's good. really sounds worse than it is, because this is the layer right here underneath. You can see this actually has some wires. I don't think I see any wires here, but as I find them, I'll pull them out for you. They're just little tiny little wires that used to heat up, and that's what caused the heat when they first moved in here. Then they put in the forced hot water. So now this is the joist here, and there's a piece of strapping here. So with the joist, I'm just gonna go along and just quickly cut this out. Other side of it. So once again, there's the joist. See, these are the little wires right here. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video, but there's a little wire that's right here. Probably a couple more, and those were just once again the wiring for the ceiling. So next, because I have the piece of strapping and that's wood, I actually have a saw which I'm going to grab. Though you could do it with this, but if you happen to have a little hacksaw, sorry, Sawzall. I'm gonna change my battery. I didn't even really need to cut this out because the actual unit is only as thick as the sheetrock, but I like to take them out anyway. So this could have stayed in and the unit will actually fit up into it. So I'm gonna just knock that last corner out. There you go. Good. So next, if you look at this, I need to get a wire from here over to that one there. And that's one bay over, all right? So the bays run this way, but the strapping runs this way. So I'm gonna run a snake this way down the strapping and reach in there and pull it out. So this is a snake. You can buy it at Home Depot. You can buy them in different lengths. If you're just doing ceilings like this, you don't need to buy a 250 footer. You know, they do sell them in, I think, 25 foot increments. So you can just buy a 25 footer. They usually come on this plastic spool, which is great if you're running into pipe. But if you're not running in pipe, then you need to be able to twist and turn these things. And with the spool, it makes it difficult to do. So I'm gonna move in here. So in order to stay underneath the strapping and not hitting the joist, you have to put a curve on the snake. So if the snake is like this, it's gonna wanna constantly ride along the ceiling and go underneath the joists in between the strapping. So I'm gonna try to ride the strapping that's over here. Remember, the second bit of sheetrock that's in here actually does block some of the strapping, but but luckily there's about a half an inch on either side from these panels. So I'm gonna try to ride into that. First thing I'm actually gonna do, is get a general length about how far that I want to go. So I figure if I'm going this far, I'm going to hold it on this end like this so that I know about how far. I can also put a piece of tape here so that I know, so that I'm not running past it and have to back it off. So now I'm running right along the strapping and the joists, and I'm in there. So now if I bring my ladder over here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this exactly 180 degrees. So the part that was curved down will now curve up, and I'll be able to feel it. So it's now curved up. So just to understand that, sorry about the mess here, to understand how to work a snake, you don't try to turn the snake with your hands. You'll put a little bend on it, like this, and you just give it a twist. So now that's turned again, and I'm going to turn it back. So you just put a little, just a little like an S bend on it, and if you just give it a twist like this, it will twist. So that's why I find it very difficult to use those plastic snakes. So I reached up. It is slightly past the point that I want it to be at. So I'm going to pull it back. I'm just going to come back here. I'm right on the edge of the joist, so I'm just underneath it, so I need to try to pull it back a little bit. Okay. Click it back up. And here it is. So once again, the joists are running this way. I ran underneath them, and there's a piece of strapping, I'm going to estimate somewhere right in this area of the world. So I was on the other side of the piece of strapping, so when I reach in here, I can actually feel, and I just grab the snake, right? So typically if you have these all in a row, you know, if you were doing a much bigger room, and let's say you were putting 4 to 6 of them in, 3 on each side, you would just go from one to another, and then from the last one, you're just going to loop over down to the other one. So you don't usually have to cross bays. Usually you're going to stay in the same bay the whole time. So the wire in this house was 14 gauge for ceiling, for the lighting. So I have my 14 gauge wire here. This is the end of it. So the thing to think about when you're putting this on is you only have about a half an inch between, or a little more than a half an inch, but plan on a half an inch between the joists and the strapping. So you can't put a ton of tape on this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come along, and if you can see this, there's a hook on there. I'm just going to take this, put it into this, and then try to get the hook to actually run into the insulation. This hook is a little closed. So I've opened the hook up a little bit. And once again, I will go ahead and just push it in there. And so I've done that, so it's actually just running into that into the insulation. And then I'll tape it. I'm gonna start back here. Tape is your friend. You spend all this time snaking, so don't cheap out on your tape, because then if you lose it, you gotta re-snake it. So usually what I do on the end here is I'll cut off about an inch, and then I just fold over a little bit, and that's gonna give me a tag that I can just pull easily pull it off from. Here, because once again I had to jump a bay, I'm going to go ahead and feed this up here until I get to the other side of that bay. If not, it's just going to get caught between the joist and the strapping. So now I fed it, it's past the joist and the strapping. If you don't do that, it's just going to get bound up on that. So now I should be able to just reasonably pull that, but I'm going to grab my ladder over here because I might need to work the snake back and forth a little bit. Once again, because it does jump the bay there, it can get a little caught. I'm going to just pull it back here a little bit, shove a little extra up there just so that there's not a lot of strain on the wire. So when it gets caught, you might need to just flip it a half a turn. It's caught on something, so if you just bend it, give it that flip, it often will get loose from whatever it's caught on. It's not now, so I'm just going to come back, pull this back a little bit, because it's just hung up on something. Try to give myself enough slack. So any amount of friction that's caused by this bending down just will cause it to hang up. So flip. I can feel it. It's right here. I just need to push it over a little bit. Once again, just because of the, there you go, it gets caught with that heated ceiling. So it's two layers of sheetrock there, so it really can get bound up. Normally it's fairly easy. So there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Oops. Line my snake back up, get it out of the way. Typically what I'll tell you is go ahead and cut all your lights in and run your wires first. Reason being is sometimes you just run into a place where you can't run that to the next one. You might find that there was a piece of blocking there or something, but you can get it from another light next to it, that's a little further down the line. So, your best bet is get all your wires run and then go ahead and put your fixtures in. Okay, I'm going to grab a couple things and we'll get started putting that.
So now we're ready to put the actual lights in. So I moved the lighting around. I apologize when we were cutting it in. I didn't move the lighting around, so the video probably wasn't as good. So this is the box right here that we're going to put in. When you open it up, it has wire connectors in it. So wire nuts or wing nuts, however you want to call them. Got a knockout here. Put a Romex connector in. That's this connector here. Again, it doesn't come with them, so some of the higher end lighting that you might buy will have knockouts that already have something in it to tie your wire down. So these on Amazon I think were maybe $8 a piece. The ones that you might buy from Home Depot are $30 a piece. So I prefer to put my own connector on it.
and save that kind of money. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off what I had already cut through there. And then we need about 3 or 4 inches here. That's all you need. So I'm gonna go ahead and just strip this back. So if you're stripping wire, and you're not used to stripping wire, we don't actually cut the wire, we actually just grab it. So you don't want to put too much pressure on it. So I'm just putting a little bit of pressure, putting my thumb behind here and holding and just pulling. So you're really just ripping the wire, you're not cutting it. So I often see people trying to cut their wire, and you would notice here that if you looked, you're not going to see any marks on the actual wire because I didn't actually grab it, or I didn't cut into it, I just grabbed the wire. So very light and just push, and you'll just tear the wire off. It's made to tear. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and just make my ends up here. So same thing, I'm going to cut probably here about a 1/2 inch off. I'm just grabbing and not cutting, put my finger on it and pull, and it will come right off. Same thing here, about a 1/2 inch, grab and pull. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the insulator for the ground wire. Put it into my Romex connector. Go ahead and just tighten it down. And then put it through the box. Put the nut on it. Get it in there. So what I'm doing is I put the unit in, and then this is the nut right here, and I'm just tightening it down right now. Sometimes you need to use a screwdriver to get it fully tightened down. You make special tools for this too, if you want to spend the money on them. But usually just right there, that's pretty tight. Now the ground on this unit is already grounded to the box. So sometimes there's a screw in it that you have to put your ground wire through in order to ground it. But this box already comes grounded, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to take the wire nuts. Put my ground on. So I'll usually leave the wire from the actual light, because it's usually a little thinner, just a 1/16 of an inch above it, and that way it will help wrap it around, put it on, twist it till it's tight. White wire next. There's real no order to it, this is just the way I'm going. And then the black. And just close it up. Just loop this back in. Set this here. Grab here, this velvet looks fine, they're pretty well made. And this is a twist connector. So this will only go on one way. There's a flat side. So if you look in here, there's actually a flat side. And it goes in, and then twist down on it, and it's now in. Now here, you want to make sure these blue tabs are spring loaded, and they go up and they grab a hold of the sheetrock. Right here, I wouldn't want to do it here because obviously I have no space. So I'm going to pick an area that's blank on both sides. Just go up, push these up with my fingers like this, go up in, and that's in. So that's one of them. So I'm gonna move over to the other one. I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, so here I'm gonna cut the other end of this. Obviously, this is the end that goes to the other unit, and then I'm gonna cut another piece so that I can attach it into that box that's sitting up there. This is the box, same thing as the last one. Measuring tape, so I have some room. Same thing, cut off about 3 or 4 inches here. Just grab and pull. Same thing, just lightly grab it. Put your thumb on here, put your hands here, and just pull it, and it will come. And just rip it, we don't cut it. Go ahead and take off the insulator. Remove the insulator here. Romex connector. Just let out on the Romex connector a little bit so I can fit 2 wires into it. Okay, so I have my 2 wires together here. This is what's called a Romex connector. So the wire is actually Romex, and that's why they call it a Romex connector. So there are different connectors for different style wires, and you can see that the 2 screws here let down on this, which is what sandwiches the 2 wires together, so they'll stay in the box. So I'm going to go ahead and just feed those in. And then the 2 screws are right here. They're Phillips screws, so I'm just going to put my screwdriver in. Turn it until it feels snug. Same thing down here. Until it feels snug. That's good. Same thing here when I open the box up. The connectors, the wire nuts. I'm going to go ahead and remove, there's right here, you can see that there's a place on the box that allows the Romex connector to go in. It's just called a knockout. These are pretty thin, so you can just bend them back and forth with your fingers, and they eventually pull out. Put your wire through. Just gonna turn it up a little bit so that it will fit in. Here's basically the nut that goes on the end of it. Hold it in. Only so much room in here, so I know you all want to see this, but I have to see it too. So it's fed on, it's going in. Once again, there's all these little square nubs hanging out on it that you can actually get a regular screwdriver on and just push down. So once you get it hand tightened, you can go ahead and just push down on it, and that really tightens it quite a bit. So now I'm going to wire this one up. So the first thing I'm going to do is the grounds. So here I have 2 grounds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to twist them together. Then cut one end off. These green connectors here are meant for grounds. You can buy them at Home Depot, probably as little as 10 in a package, maybe $1 or $2, something like that. So if you're buying this equipment, make sure that you got a couple grounds, right? Once again, if you buy the higher end units, they come with clips that you can go into, and they're self-locking clips, and I don't believe you need to twist them. You can just put them in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and so there's actually a little hole in the end of it, so when I put it on, the ground wire sticks out,
and then I can twist this together so that it makes sure to hold on where I twisted together so that that connection, that bond won't come apart. So now that's in there. I'm gonna go ahead and open up my connectors. Attach my ground first. Green is the ground. Green's always the ground. Give it a good twist. Just get that out of my way. And I haven't pulled off the wire here yet, so once again, just grab and pull. Grab and pull. Those are the two whites. I'll do the blacks while I'm at it. One of them's a little longer than the other one. So I'm just gonna cut it back a little bit. Grab and pull. And one. And grab and pull. Put the two whites together. Now there's some debate on whether I should be twisting these together or not. You don't need to when you're using these, but a lot of guys do. Here I'm just not going to, there's only two small wires. So I'm sure I will see comments about that, but that's okay, it's a personal preference. Twist it really good. And then just tug, see, make sure you tug on the wire for the light, because sometimes it doesn't. That's why I'll usually leave it a little above the other wires so that it will actually wrap itself around. So I'll do it again. Give it a little tug, it's not coming out. I'm going to fold that back down. Same thing here. I'm going to leave the wire from the light just a little above it, and that way it's going to get grabbed by the threads inside the wire nut. Good twist, make sure it's pretty tight. Pull it, it's not coming out. Go ahead, send it back down. And there. Now from here, I have the box here, right? And what I'm going to do, I'll turn my light around in a second here so that you can see this as we're going. Okay. So this is the box that had the old light in it, and I am going to bury it up here, but as long as it's accessible, and it's accessible through this light coming down, we're fine with that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out. On a box like this, you're going to have, this has its own locking mechanism for the wire, so I don't need to use a Romex connector. So I'm going to just put my screwdriver in here, pull back, twist back and forth, and that little thing comes out. Okay? Once again, I'm going to cut back here. I'm going to cut back a little bit longer, about 6 inches back in this direction here. Pull this off. The outer sheathing, just cut that off. Same thing with the ground. The ground always comes here. Screwdriver fell. Which is the one I'm going to need because this house is 35 years old, and back in those days everything was slotted. So I need my slotted screwdriver. So here I'm going to put it through this hole. Just making sure it doesn't get all bound up in the other wires there, and I'll turn this around for you in a second. So that's it there. So I know the lighting's not the greatest here, but I'm sticking out about 1/2 inch here with my wire. And I'm going to go ahead and just bear down on the screw here, and that will tighten that unit down.
So now that's down, it's not coming out. First thing I'm gonna do, I like to do my grounds first. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull my white and my black back to get it out of the way. This is the ground here. This box has a green wire here. I know it's hard to see the color, but the box is grounded. So there is a green screw here to ground this box. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this here. I have some red ones, because I think we're just right at the edge of, I think I have some red ones on me. I do. And I'm gonna go ahead and twist this on here the way they did. And actually, you know what? I will use another green one here, so that in the future, if we need a ground on this, that I already have one sticking out. So. So that's all set. So once again, I'm gonna just go ahead and push this back into the box. And the two wires that we were using were the two whites that were here. Pull that off. Pull this off. And then I know that the old light had the blacks attached to this one here. I made sure it was on the side with the reds on it. So this is where the black was. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove this. Back on. Same thing here. Put the white back on. Put that there. Good, that's all set. And I'm gonna take a minute. So I put my cover on already. It's up there in the ceiling. I've got my other connector down here ready to go. I'm gonna grab my light. Find the little identifier there that shows the direction it will go. There's two pins in there, they'll only go one way, and the other two pins are, so if you're pushing it one way it doesn't go, just turn it around. So that's on. Go ahead and once again, push that up there. Blue tabs are spring loaded. I'm gonna go ahead and just put them in. Give a little push. It's right up to the ceiling. Give me 1 minute while I run downstairs and turn my... Okay, so I've turned my power back on, and this is what we have. So it's considerably more light than we had in the past. Once again, don't pay attention to the mess. Normally I would drop a cloth down here, but... And so this is a lot more light. So these are 100-watt lights, and you can get them in both the daylight and the soft white. I prefer the whiter light, and I believe that's the daylight. So rather, the soft white tends to be the yellow light. So if you're ordering them, know that. Also, you can get some of the more expensive ones, give you the ability to actually through an application on your phone, adjust your mood that you want. So they're Wi-Fi, and you can adjust based on how you're feeling for that moment. But at $8 a piece, $16, probably $2 worth of wire and a couple connectors, I have lighting down here. So what I would tell you is, if you're reasonably adventurous, you're kind of handy, this is definitely a project that you can handle. So there's nothing much other than, cutting a couple holes in your ceiling and learning to snake a wire, which is actually pretty simple. Just give it a try. Worst case scenario, you got a couple holes in your ceiling already cut for an electrician to come in and do it. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. So subscribe and I would appreciate it. Thanks.